Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is May 14th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. We're panned out across the Pacific Ocean. Here's the Gulf of Alaska, Pacific Northwest to the right of the screen. And as you can see, we've got some interesting developments out over the Pacific Ocean. It's going to bring some active weather as we go through this weekend and potentially on in through the second half of May. We'll take a look at the latest on that here as we go through the video this morning, taking a look at lightning strikes over the last 24 hours. Let me update that. You can see northeast Washington, some of British Columbia, southeast Oregon, and portions of Idaho, also getting a bit of lightning activity as well. And if we scroll out, you can see some of northwest Montana and Wyoming, and portions of Nevada as well, and portions of southwest Idaho also. It looks like some of those might have caught down in towards the valley areas as well. Let me know if you got anything out there yesterday towards the Boise area. And if you guys want your own nice affordable home weather station, look at this. It detects lightning activity. I've actually seen it detect it further away than that, and it's got all kinds of smart home integrations. It's wireless and solar powered. Very attractive unit. You can detach it there and put onto like a fence post or your fence out there, or you can put this mount and it turns to the side and you can mount it on a lot of different things. It is very easy to mount, and it also has a Doppler radar in the app as well. But yeah, you can see that unit right there, and all in one unit there, and it's, you'll have it up and running in minutes. So yeah, click on the link down below for 10% off if you like. Now looking across the region here, if I scroll out a little bit there, you can see we were getting some light rainfall for Whidbey Island. It looks like Arlington reporting some moderate rain, actually a 1.5 mile visibility. It looks like a little bit of light rain even for Spokane. I don't see anything out there for Seattle right now, but you're probably starting to get some of those raindrops starting to fly. Looks like it is 37 degrees and light rain at Stampede Pass. Now, this was something we caught a couple days ago. I believe it was a couple days ago. Now, nice anvil out there just off to the west of SeaTac over at Gig Harbor. I don't think the storm actually produced lightning strikes, but a couple to the south did. But yeah, if you want to send me some of your weather images, go to the community tab there on the Patreon page. It is free to join that, but you can support the channel if you like there as well. So anyway, looking at Spokane, again, this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday coming up. Showers and thunderstorms possible here, upper 50s to 60s, kind of suppressing our temperatures here. And daily shower chances, as you can see, but a nice graphic here from the National Weather Service Spokane. And if you want, you can do this. You don't have to be out there across these National Weather Service areas. You can still scan this QR code and become, get your weather spotter education up to par here. And you can see the virtual training for this one is on June 3rd. So this is day one thunderstorm outlook. Again, northeast Washington, some of that Panhandle, western Montana, and portions of eastern Idaho. Day two, something similar there as well. And if you have friends out there across some of Wisconsin, Chicago area, kind of heads up there, you've got some interesting weather on your way. It is an active season here across the plains. So yeah, there's a tornado threat with that also. And then we go to day three and continue to see some of this activity here across the inner portion of the Pacific Northwest. So if we take a look at what is going on here, this is looking at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. We're going to look at the jet stream here in a moment as well. So we're dealing with this next system here, kind of swinging through here as we go through the day today and tomorrow, kind of merging with that trough and moving off to the east. And then we kind of squash this next ridge, and it develops well out over the Pacific Ocean, and we allow for this trough to come down across the area. Probably going to keep a pretty rainy weekend in store for much of the Pacific Northwest. And you can see another low pressure system as we go on in through early next week as well. More on that here in a moment in the extended forecast. Now we're looking out over at the northern Pacific Ocean. There's the Hawaiian Islands. There's Japan to the far left of this image. There's Pacific Northwest over here to the right. And you can see our jet stream there, a little bit hyped up here. And as we go on in through the next few days, you can kind of see this off and on activity here. And then we got the ridge out over the Pacific Ocean, but a fairly strong jet stream diving down out of the north and west as we go through the weekend. That's what's going to allow that troughing and some rainy periods as we go through the upcoming weekend. As we scroll on into the extended forecast, you can kind of see some interesting systems moving into Western Canada, keeping us wet at times on into next week and potentially through the extended forecast. Again, more on that in a moment here in the extended forecast. Now looking at the lightning flash density potential, this is the high resolution rapid refresh. It is running as we speak. This is the 12Z run. But this kind of shows you where the thunderstorm potential for today may be. Eastern British Columbia, some of northeast Washington, again, kind of showing you what the SPC was looking at there as well. And then you go on into the day Thursday and kind of moving off. Doesn't show anything for Washington or Oregon by Thursday. Then we start to head off in towards Friday, and who knows, we'll wait and break that down as we get closer. But this is a North American model, high resolution. This one is hot off the presses. How much of this do we have? It is just now starting to run. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 0.6Z because we can go out 60 hours on that. You see the spin in the atmosphere there across eastern Idaho, and you see some of this shower activity that we talked about at the beginning of the video here today. You can see it kind of hanging around western Oregon, western Washington. A little bit of convergence zone activity across some of the central Puget Sound as we go through the morning hours, so watch out for those showers there. And then you can see some of these thunderstorms popping off as we go through this afternoon. So then we scroll off in towards the day on Thursday. You see by the time we get towards Thursday afternoon, we start to bring some light precipitation towards the coastline. This front doesn't have a big punch with it, but it is going to keep temperature suppressed here across the region and bring some light rainfall with it. Showery weather behind that as we go on in through the day Friday, and then we'll wait for that weekend system to come down. Now, taking a look at the total precipitation in inches. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here because we're going to go ahead and try to get a little bit more of a close-up view here in Washington and Oregon. So here we go through the day today. You can see a few hundredths of an inch of rain there for SeaTac. A little bit better north, Skagit, Whatcom County there, Bellingham, maybe a couple tenths of an inch as well. Some of the Oregon coast. Then we scroll on in through this afternoon, this evening. Now we're going on in through Thursday. Here we go. Cursor dropped off there for a moment. It's not liking that, so we'll just scroll through up here. But as we go through the day on Thursday, you can see by the time we get towards Thursday night, we start to, again, bring another round of precipitation here across the region. Now we scroll off towards the weekend and watch what happens here. You can see we're probably in store for a fairly rainy day on Saturdays. I toggle back and forth here on the day Saturday. Of course, just in time for the weekend. Some pretty impressive precipitation amounts. Look at Bellingham, Seattle, Southwest BC. And even some of the Oregon Cascades get pretty decent amounts. We scroll through the day on Sunday and kind of keeping things still wet. Then another system as we go through the early portion of next week here. So that's just through the early portion of next week. I got something interesting to show you here in the extended as well. So lightning flash density potential, again, mainly off to the east, but as we scroll on into this weekend, it does show a little bit of instability here for maybe western Washington, western Oregon. We'll revisit that here over the next couple of days. Now, taking a look here at snowfall, 24-hour running total as we go on in towards these systems, as we get closer to them. We'll continue to watch this, but this looks like mainly higher elevation snowfall events here. You know, we're not looking at a lot for Snoqualmie or Stevens Pass or anything like that, but you can see there's a couple decent rounds that come across some of the Rocky Mountains there and Yellowstone as well as we go on into the early portion of next week. So here we go, extended forecast. Here we go, west coast of North America off to the upper right. There's the Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left. There's the trough we've been dealing with here, pushing off to the east, and then we start to bring this next trough down as we go through this week, and that's what's going to cause these rainy conditions. Of course, just in time for the weekend. Ridge tries to come in here, but it's not making much headway. It's not really getting established across the west coast of North America with this next trough driving in towards western Canada, and then it kind of keeps things active, swinging these polar lobes and these troughs here. And look at this one just open up right across Pacific Northwest as we go through the extended forecast. So kind of a flip in the models here on last night's runs here was showing some pretty deep troughing across the west coast of North America, and then being replenished on top of that as we continue on in through the later portion of May. Of course, it's the extended forecast, just a fantasy forecast right now, but we'll continue to monitor that. Now, if we take a look at the extended forecast and the jet stream, so we'll be watching this. You'll see this weekend's trough get carved out right there. Here's the ridge. Here's the trough. There's a trough out here and a bit of a ridge out, way out across some of the Northwest Pacific Ocean. So as we scroll on into the early portion of next week, there goes that next system as we go through Monday and Tuesday. And then you can see the jet stream pointed right at the Pacific Northwest with some troughing not far off here as we go through much of this forecast on in through the second half of May. You can see the troughs just setting up shop here and the jet stream visiting the Pacific Northwest with these low pressure centers here as we go on in towards the end of the month. Now, 15-day precipitation anomaly. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, I've been showing this, and you can really see the big flop or the big flip and flop in this model's been doing, because this is a big new development here as we go towards the end of the month. I mean, look at some of these precipitation anomalies, which looks like it's starting out to be a pretty dry May actually be really ramping things up as we go through the second half of the month. So kind of an interesting look there. We won't get too caught up in that. The confidence is not too high in this just yet. Let's see what this continues to show over the next few days before you start making your plans for a wet May coming up. You know, we got a little bit of work to do here. Let's see if this trends in the models. And if we just kind of scroll through this pretty quickly, you go through this weekend, next week, a system coming in, the end of next week, another system. We go through next weekend, another system. These troughs just never ending on last night's artificial intelligence model run. By the time we get towards May 28th, look at that, another 3.1 inches for Seattle. We've only got 200ths of an inch so far this year as of last night or very early this morning. But yeah, you can see that signal there. Pretty impressive as we go through the second half of May. But again, we'll just continue to watch it for now and try to gain some confidence over the next couple of days. Now, looking at Wednesday, May 14th, you can see Seattle only peaking out about 61 or so, maybe mid-60s for Portland, a little bit warmer east of the mountains. Then we go through Thursday, even a little bit chillier for Seattle. Look at 58 degrees. There's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not warming up too much there. And maybe we'll start to bounce back at some point next week, but who knows about that. We're looking too far from the forecast to get caught up in those details too much. And that rainfall, if we did get it here, that extended forecast would be greatly beneficial because this is since January 1st. You can see much of the Pacific Northwest below normal. Some of eastern Oregon has been above normal there, but it's easier to skew those data because this is just an average precipitation value. And then we go from April 1st, and the entire Pacific Northwest has been quite dry. So we could really use a very wet second half of May. That would definitely be beneficial here across Pacific Northwest. This goes through April 1st through May 12th. I believe. Let's see, did that update yesterday? No, it has not yet. But 6 to 10 day, you can kind of see that below normal signal here across a lot of the Pacific Northwest and kind of this mixed bag right there. We'll see. This was updated yesterday. We'll see how the Climate Prediction Center responds to some of those weather model changes. Yeah, especially the European artificial intelligence. But anyway, that's a little ways out in the forecast, but something interesting to look forward to. But otherwise, yeah, click like and subscribe. We will do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.